New Jersey, northeast on the U.S. map, the third state to be founded in the country. Originally known for its history, industry, and its political contributions to the country, New Jerseyans also love to get out and enjoy themselves. The state began investing in fun around 1890, and around the 1900s was home to around 120 carousels statewide. And the number of visitors proved that even though New Jersey was serious hard workers, New Jerseyans loved to get out and have a good time. Amusement park style rides and carnivals began to spring up after the Great Depression, plus an upgrade to New Jersey's beautiful beaches. With that came casinos, like the one seen on the famous Boardwalk Empire, barring tourists and natives alike. Even the casinos became hot spots for gamblers. It was still illegal, so law enforcement was paid to look the other way. It was legalized in 1978, 2 years after hundreds of locals voted to make it legal.
Atlantic City, I fought for regulated casino gambling, just for Atlantic City, to revitalize it, spur jobs, and restore its reputation.
On the other side of the country, four brothers, Albert, Sam, Jack, and Harry, was on top of the world with their famous movie company. With the headquarters in New York, the team then set their eyes on New Jersey. After a meet with local and state government, they sent scouts and realized that the drive was over an hour from Manhattan to New Jersey. After confusing the contractors, trying to decide between Passaic County and Mawa County, they decided that West Milford and Passaic was the place. Plus, the Department of New Jersey Transportation has just constructed a 4-lane highway extending from the top of New Jersey through 4 counties into Mount Vernon, leading you to the famous Playboy Great Gorge Resort. After building staff cabins, amusement for visitors, and animal enclosures, animals were shipped from all over the world to Milford, New Jersey. Locals remember seeing the circus-style trucks along the highway. The name was the Warner Brothers Jungle Habitat. On July 19, 1972, the park was open for family entertainment. The park had prize-winning games, African shows, and stories, kids' rides, your favorite Warner Brothers characters for children to interact with, food stands, and the famous drive-through safari. Some of the animals roam free through the safari, such as llamas, peacocks, elephants, camels, giraffes, baboons, ostrich, deers, antelopes, Siberian tigers, lions, bears, rhinos, and many more. Predators were separated from most animals, but still in the safari, it was expected by tourists to get an excitement of animals by climbing along their cars or walking alongside the vehicles. Warning signs were placed, telling visitors to keep their windows closed, but thrill seekers made a mockery of it. Along the walk path was called Jungle Junction, no relation to the Disney show. Home to the reptile house, snack bars, gift shops, pet and zoo, and an area for dolphin shows. Also, the Bugs Bunny and Friends show was a main attraction, especially for the kids, who got a chance to see all their favorite Looney Tunes in real life. The show would have 4 shows on the weekend and 3 times a day on the weekdays. But the zebra go-round and safari car ride was still the main attraction. Overall, it was home to over 1,500 animals, and by the end of September 1972, it had over 200,000 visitors, handling over 30,000 cars a day. With that many animals, plus tourists, and the safety of visitors being top priority, the jungle habitat would eventually fall short to health and safety standards. But the habitat wasn't to blame for all of these encounters. In hindsight, there was no way to predict a change in the character or reaction of the animal that walked among visitors, because just like humans, each and every animal has its own unique personality and reacts differently to each encounter. We now know it's a bad idea to keep predatory animals in the same space as non-predatory animals. But in the 1970s, there were still lessons to be learned. October 9, 1972, 26-year-old Abraham Levy, a tourist from Israel, is riding with a friend, David Nagar. The ride will be from Brooklyn to Medford, New Jersey. It's a 2-car caravan family road trip. In the rear, there's Abraham, David Nagar, and David Nagar's mother. The car in the front is being driven by David's brother-in-law, and also David's wife and David's sister-in-law. In a 1972 news report, David explained that there were only elephants and ducks, and most of the cars had their windows open, just to touch and sneak bread to the animals. He then said, as they approached the area that was known to be dangerous, they noticed the area was pretty quiet and tranquil. Out of nowhere, a male lion appeared at the passenger side window. He yelled for Abraham to close the window, and it was at that moment, as the window rolled up, that the lion threw his paws in and immediately started scratching 26-year-old Levy, Abraham, in the face, neck, and shoulder. The driver, David Nagar uses his pocket knife to lean over and cut the lion in the face. The Wasowski siblings heard the noise and commotion in front of them. Dove exited the car and tried to scare the lion by throwing rocks at him, and a traffic jam had formed in the safari, making it harder for the vehicle carrying the staff to get to the incident. When they finally arrived, Mr. Nagar was trying to slow down the bleeding from Mr. Abraham's multiple wounds. Levy was rushed to Chilton Hospital in Pompton Plains, and it was Dr. Arthur David, a top plastic surgeon, alongside Dr. Robert Steinfeld, who saved the life of Abraham Levy. According to the doctors, he suffered from severe abrasions, slashings to his right arm, ear, and 8 severed nerves in his right cheek. He remained in the hospital for the next month and 2 weeks before recuperating. The Nagar family, also originally from Israel, stayed by Mr. Levy's side during his hospital stay. Mr. Levy showed integrity and kindness when it was all over by taking blame for the October incident. But newspaper articles and bad publicity didn't stop the tourists from attending the park. By autumn 1972, Jungle Habitat had reached 500,000 paid visitors. The talk of New Jersey jungle habitat was all over the newspapers, barbershops, and classrooms. But still, an unexpected incidents between paid visitors and animals will continue. November 1972. 2 wolves find a way to escape and are spotted roaming park grounds, unoccupied and running through multiple enclosures. The wolves were eventually led back to their sanctuary by Habitat employees. But this wasn't an isolated incident. There were rumors of exotic animals who were seen roaming through suburban streets in and around the safari, but these rumors were never confirmed. December 1972. The holidays are approaching. Families prepare home for Christmas festivities. Jungle Habitat participating in a TV special with famous TV host Jack Parr, while Parr is aggressively playing with the tiger cub. But suddenly the tiger became annoyed and struck Parr. The hit only left a minor cut, after Parr quickly avoided a deeper punch.
Out at the Jungle Habitat in New Milford, New Jersey.
1973 would go without any major incidents, but customers still complained of animals who roamed through the safari and messed with the cars who were passing by. It was said that the tigers would bite holes through tires of the vehicles, and baboons would rip antennas off cars and trucks alike. The numbers of baboons getting free and roaming through suburban neighborhoods was a rumor but was never really confirmed. By summer of '73, life in New Jersey was changing. The beaches were becoming more popular than ever before, and amusement park style rides were popping up on the boardwalks, and pretty soon, actual fun would overshadow jungle habitat. But not everyone abandoned the idea of going to jungle habitat. Children would come by the dozen on field trips, and it also became a hot spot for elderly couples. But with the unpredictable animals, this would prove to be extremely unsafe. July 8, 1974. 60-year-old Elizabeth E. is enjoying a day at jungle habitat. She has traveled with her husband from Long Island. Suddenly, she's attacked by a baby elephant. The elephant had broken out of its enclosure, grabbed her with its trunk, bit her on the hand, then tossed the elderly woman, causing her to slam into a fence. She had persistent damage to the right side of her body and was unable to lift anything heavy. The woman was eventually awarded $200,000 after a long suit, and her husband was awarded $5,000 for loss of companionship. The aura of bad luck continued to plague the jungle habitat. When the park was sued again, when a family's Mercedes-Benz was damaged after a rhino climbed on top of the car attempting to mate with the vehicle, and more complaints from West Milford residents spotting exotic animals on suburban streets. At this point, jungle habitat is becoming less amusing, and some county officials and residents noticed the consistent flow of traffic along the highways and local streets. It wasn't only the habitat. Mount Vernon had its own Great Gorge Resort, bringing in some partygoers as well as families. The casino brought in people from all walks of life. Music events, the skating rinks, as well as Wildwood, all played a part in the constant jam-packed highways and packed gas stations. For now, some people are looking for ways to remove the habitat from the New Jersey area. Jackson, New Jersey, July 1st, 1974. The same week as the elephant attack, just miles away from West Milford, a new theme park is open, owned by the same company who funded and started jungle habitat. Six Flags Great Adventures, the largest theme park in New Jersey, even today, and will be the country's second best theme park for the next 50 years. This shows the way business works. Even though the jungle habitat's popularity was declining, the WB still had the new Six Flags, which was taken off. Some of the animals were moved to Jackson Six Flags location, for the new Six Flags Wild Safari, which opened in July '74. Over in Medford, business was starting to decline. After a 2-year steady flow, the public found better ways to entertain and enjoy themselves. The habitat failed to attract visitors a second time. Truth being, no new attractions were ever put up, nor did they change any dialogue to the live character shows. So in 1975, Warner Brothers proposed a $20 million idea: a large wooden roller coaster, a new carousel, a steel children's roller coaster, a log ride, a few adult spinning rides, and a couple kiddie coasters. But due to the large number of tourists coming in and out of Medford, and this consistent traffic in local streets surrounding freeways, the township was divided on any upgrades to the park. For now, any upgrades to jungle habitat is just an idea. April 12, 1976. The West Milford Zoning Ordinance and Plan Review are meeting with the residents and habitat officials to discuss the expansion. Most of the townspeople like the jungle habitat, but most township and government officials, want to do away with the habitat altogether. The township residents continue to apply pressure to the local government, and eventually, the WB withdrew from its zoning application. They've spent more than $3.5 million on maintaining jungle habitat since it opened, summer of '72, and also, they felt the lack of support from officials and residents. But Warner executives are smart. They know that Six Flags was a new gold mine, and in the '70s, tourism wasn't as big in the tri-state as it is today. To carry 2 large safaris in New Jersey was a big deal, and the larger rides with Six Flags were bringing customers of all ages, instead of just families and school field trips usually that go to the safari. In reality, an upgrade to jungle habitat will run a tab of $10 million, and in 1976, the investment just wasn't worth it. Summer 1976. The park has been open since April. It's been a pretty steady summer, but downtown the rumors of expanding the park isn't sitting well with local government. Jungle Habitat's last weekend of operation will be Halloween weekend, 1976. On November 2nd, after months of debating, the township narrowly voted against any expansion of jungle habitat. The park was shut down, and not soon after, Warner Brothers sold the land. Warner Brothers had just announced plans to expand in the beginning of fall of 1976, and by the late fall, had to announce the park was shutting down, making it a quick, confusing combustion of announcements to local and frequent visitors. To add more confusion, amusement park rides had already been shipped to New Jersey from Germany, awaiting transport papers and sending in New Jersey ports. After neglecting to present papers, the rides were sent back to Germany. But the public was no longer concerned with jungle habitat, and during the late 80s, boxing fans would grow into the millions. This was the Mike Tyson era, bringing an unimaginable energy to Atlantic City. The casinos would once again be a hotspot for New Jersey tourists, making it a getaway for married couples and singles looking for a different kind of fun. A tourist flying into New Jersey in hopes to see a Tyson match unexpectedly sometimes will leave early because of Mike Tyson's infamous first-round knockouts, sending those in attendance pouring into the casino. Win or lose, this brought tourists back to New Jersey for the sole purpose of girls and gambling. Those with a different interest, and made New Jersey's malls and arcade the #1 visiting spot for local residents. So eventually, even New Jersey boardwalks put up arcades and fashion stores. Sitting right in between New York and Pennsylvania, New Jersey's never too cold nor too hot. You'll get the feel of all 4 seasons in New Jersey. Not known for any earthquakes or tornadoes, but a few hurricanes has put its mark on New Jersey in the past. But compared to what we've seen and what we've become accustomed to seeing around the world, the weather is perfect. Overall, New Jersey is a diverse state with strong, welcoming residents. For those who live in New Jersey, the traveling carnivals, skating rings, water parks, malls was the weekend hotspots. Residents who didn't frequent the shore found fun inside their local lakes and public pools. The first week of April 1977, according to numerous articles, all but 2 of the animals left at jungle habitat were found dead. Some above ground, but most was found dead in a mountaintop pit. What made it disturbing to inspectors were the animals that were dismembered and disemboweled. The ones that made headlines was the decapitated elephant, camel, and buffalo, which was found at a zoo nearby. Inspector Henry Schwab said most of them couldn't be identified, and they had to be dead for at least a month, unquote. Also, the truth surfaced. The habitat had been selling animals to smaller zoos throughout the country. While a spokesman has said that the habitat was responsible for all animals on the property, the top officers responsible for the exchange never came forward for comments. Warner Brothers officials failed to provide legal documents of any animal sales, even though the smaller zoos said they purchased the animals from jungle habitat. Over 400 animals consisting of lions, zebras, deers, and more were still roaming the property as of 1977. At first, the inspector could not determine the cause of death for so many animals. Given that they were being fed on a regular basis, they were investigating this during the winter, which made it impossible to dig the soil. By the end of 1977, it was determined that the dozens of animals, including deceased ones, had contracted tuberculosis. Over 100 animals were eventually euthanized. It's been decades since jungle habitat has operated, but no changes have been made to the buildings, signs, or structures. In 1988, the state of New Jersey purchased the property. It said that they only bought the property for $1.4 million. Since the 21st century, it's been operated by multiple cycling clubs, using its strategic walking path for bike riders to enjoy and race. Fans and social media influencers still visit the jungle habitat site. Once a place for families, couples, and animal lovers to visit, is now an abandoned dystopia. On August 20th, 2012, Six Flags announced that their wild safari would no longer be accessible to private vehicles, meaning that customers and families can no longer pay to drive through the safari to see the animals. It became Six Flags Off-Road Adventure, which held up until March 2020, when the coronavirus forced it to close. As of today, 2021, casinos seem to be the main hotspot in New Jersey. While the amusement parks and beaches remain seasonal, the casinos are all year round, making it the #1 hotspot for New Jersey tourism.